Today on That Was When, we look at the events of September 3rd through history. Let's start with some notable anniversaries. In 301, the state of San Marino gained its independence from the Roman Empire, and it is still the world's oldest surviving republic. It has an area of just 66 square kilometers and a population of around 36,000. As a full member of the United Nations, it has an elected government and two elected captains general who rule jointly for their 6-month period of office. Today also marks the coronation of King Richard I of England, known as Richard the Lionheart, in 1189. As well as being King of England, Richard was a Plantagenet ruler and thus controlled the western half of France as well. He is famed as a warrior, having been one of the leaders of the Third Crusade, which concluded with the Treaty of Jaffa. This allowed safe passage for Christians and Muslims, making pilgrimage to Jerusalem through Palestine. On this day in 1777 was fought the Battle of Couch's Bridge, also known as the Battle of Iron Hill, significant mainly as being the first time the new flag of the United States had been flown. On 3rd of September 1895, quarterback John Brallier turned out for the Latrobe Athletic Association in their match against the Jeannette Athletic Association, when Latrobe's regular quarterback was unavailable. To induce him to play, manager Dave Berry offered Brallier expenses plus a match fee, making him the first openly professional player in American football. The fee was $10. How times have changed. In 1935, Malcolm Campbell set his 9th and final land speed record when he drove the Napier Railton Bluebird at Bonneville Salt Flats at an average of 301.377 miles per hour, the first man to drive at over 300 miles an hour. The record lasted for 2 years until surpassed by fellow Brit George Easton. In 1971, John Lennon moved to New York with his wife Yoko Ono. The decision was literally life-changing. 9 years later, as Lennon was returning to the Dakota Apartments building at Central Park West, he was shot and killed by Mark Chapman. Perhaps the most far-reaching event to take place on September 3rd in history was the declaration of war by France and the UK against Germany in 1939. For Europe, this was the start of the Second World War. Germany had been expanding its sphere of influence over Central and Eastern Europe under its concept of Lebensraum, its perceived need for room for the growth of an Aryan nation, even at the expense of the indigenous peoples who were to be either relocated or eliminated. Diplomatic attempts by Great Britain and France to limit this expansionist policy were ineffective. Following the annexation of Austria in the Anschluss of March 1938, Germany invaded the Sudetenland, a majority German-speaking area of Czechoslovakia lost by Germany after World War I. The invasion took place with the agreement of British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and French Prime Minister Edouard Daladier. Notably, no one had thought to invite the Czech government for their opinion. Hitler's next move was the partition of Poland, where Germany and the Soviet Union would split the country between themselves as part of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. However, France and Germany had guaranteed Polish independence, so conflict became inevitable. Nonetheless, German forces crossed the border into Poland on the 1st of September 1939. The British Parliament met later that evening, the French Parliament the following day. It was agreed that an ultimatum would be presented to Germany, due to expire at 11 a.m. on the 3rd of September. At 11:15 a.m., Chamberlain addressed the British nation by radio.
This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Just a few hours later, the English passenger vessel SS Athenia was sunk by the German submarine U-30 without warning. The immediate effects were far-reaching. Winston Churchill was reappointed to government as First Lord of the Admiralty, and within a year would be Prime Minister. At sea, the Battle of the Atlantic was joined. The convoy system was introduced where large numbers of merchant ships travelled together under the protection of a group of warships. Once the USA entered the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, increased numbers of better ships, long-range air cover, plus the invention of radar and other technologies meant that the U-boat threat was slowly diminished. Men and material flowed across the Atlantic, enabling the invasion of France on D-Day in 1944 and the eventual defeat of Germany in 1945. In 1820, George Hearst was born in the small town of Sullivan, Missouri. A self-educated man, Hearst started as a prospector, then made a living by founding mines, including the Homestake mine in South Dakota that continued producing gold all the way up to 2001. Hearst's only son, William Randolph Hearst, was the newspaper publisher that inspired Orson Welles' character, Citizen Kane. Ferdinand Porsche was born on this day in 1875. A pioneering automotive engineer, he brought the Volkswagen Beetle to the world, along with the famous Auto Union race cars and the first self-charging hybrid car, the Lorna Porsche of 1900. John Lee Chapman, the blues singer professionally known as Memphis Slim, came into the world in 1915. Starting as a session musician, Memphis Slim eventually formed his own band and recorded many jazz standards such as Messin' Around and Nobody Loves Me, among his 500 or so known recordings. He was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 1989, 1 year after his death. In 1955, Steve Jones was born in London. After a troubled early life, Jones found expression as a guitarist with the punk band The Sex Pistols. And of a similar hell-raising reputation, actor Charlie Sheen was born this day in 1965. Youngest son of Martin Sheen, Charlie has starred in numerous films including Wall Street, Young Guns and Platoon. eBay started life as AuctionWeb, founded on 3rd of September 1995 by the computer programmer Pierre Omidyar as part of his personal site. While other e-commerce sites existed, AuctionWeb was the first to offer person-to-person bidding for items in an auction-style sale. The first item sold by Omidyar was a broken laser pointer, sold to electrical engineer Mark Fraser for $14.83. Fraser repaired it and indeed still has it. Growth in the company was exponential, and in September 1997 AuctionWeb became eBay, named after Omidyar's Echo Bay Technology Group consultancy. In the same year, eBay received investment of $6.7 million from venture capital firm Benchmark Capital in return for 22.1% of the company, probably Benchmark's best investment ever. Just 2.5 years after its founding, eBay had 30 employees, 500,000 users, and revenues of $4.7 million. When the company was floated in 1998, shares went from $18 to over $53 on the first day, making Omidyar an instant billionaire. eBay became known as a secure place to trade with its use of the PayPal global payment system, a company eBay purchased in 2002 and then spun off as a separate entity in 2014. In 2005, eBay acquired Skype Technologies, the voice-over internet calls and messaging service, later selling it to Microsoft for a reported $8.5 billion just 6 years later. And in 2007, eBay acquired StubHub for $310 million, a company that deals in resale of tickets for events. StubHub was then sold to Viagogo in 2020 for $4.05 billion. As of 2021, eBay had a net income of $13.6 billion and 10,800 employees worldwide. eBay was a major player in the dot-com bubble that revolutionized the way we buy products and now facilitates an entire sector of the global commercial marketplace, an everyday part of transactions between individuals and small businesses across the world. Oliver Cromwell died this day in 1658 at the age of 59. Cromwell was the Lord Protector of England after the overthrow and execution of King Charles I at the end of the English Civil War. Cromwell was known either as a hero of liberty or as a military dictator, depending on your point of view. After his death, his son Richard took over, but his weakness as a leader resulted in the collapse of the Protectorate and the restoration of the monarchy under King Charles II in 1660. Vince Lombardi was just 57 when he passed away this day in 1970. Widely considered the greatest coach in American football history, Lombardi took the Green Bay Packers to 5 NFL championships in 7 years, including the first 2 Super Bowls. The trophy awarded to the Super Bowl winner today is named in his honor. And in 1991, Hollywood director Frank Capra passed away at the age of 94. Among his many directorial credits was It Happened One Night, a comedy that was the first movie to win all 5 top Oscars: Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress and Best Adapted Screenplay, and the perennial Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. On to another planet now, and this day in 1976, Viking 2 landed on the surface of the planet Mars. The second of 2 Viking missions, Viking 2 had been launched on a Titan IIIe rocket on 9th of September 1975, 20 days after its identical twin, Viking 1. Each spacecraft consisted of an orbiter stage with a lander attached. After a journey of 333 days, the Viking 2 orbiter started taking images of possible landing sites in the northern hemisphere of Mars. A spot in the plain Utopia Planitia was selected, and on 3rd of September, the lander was released, touching down some 5 hours later. Very soon afterwards, Viking 2 started photographing its surroundings. The images tilted slightly as one of its legs had landed on a rock. Besides taking photographs and collecting other science data on the Martian surface, the landers conducted 3 biology experiments designed to look for possible signs of life. These experiments discovered unexpected and enigmatic chemical activity in the Martian soil, but provided no clear evidence of the presence of living microorganisms in the soil near the landing sites. According to scientists, Mars is self-sterilizing. They believe the combination of solar ultraviolet radiation that saturates the surface, the extreme dryness in the soil, and the oxidizing nature of the soil chemistry prevent the formation of living organisms in the Martian soil. So, no little green men then. The Viking mission was planned to continue for just 90 days. However, the Viking Orbiter 2 functioned until the 25th of July 1978. While the lander had a longer life thanks to its radioactive batteries, the last data from the Viking 2 being received on Earth on April the 11th, 1980. And finally, on this day in 1967, traffic in Sweden changed from driving on the left to driving on the right. Known as Dagen H or H-Day, the change was initially unpopular, but was brought in to harmonise with neighbouring countries Norway and Finland, and to reflect the fact that about 90% of Swedes drove left-hand drive cars anyway. On the day, all non-essential traffic was banned from 1 in the morning till 6 in the morning. Anyone still on the road had to stop at 4:50 in the morning, then carefully change to the other side of the road. There was even a special song for the occasion, Håll dig till höger, Svensson, or Keep to the Right, Svensson, performed by the Telstars. So that was September the 3rd through history. Come back soon for another video when we take a look at That Was When.